The 2024 mock draft from Ryan Wilson will be available on CBSSports.com. If you're watching live, it will be available shortly. If you're listening to this later, it should be up over there. But just for those who are listening and doing chores, going on a walk, whatever you might be doing, he's got Caleb Williams, number 1 overall. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr. going at number 2. Woo, boy.
Both of the same team.
Are the Cardinals going to have?
Yeah.
Because the Cardinals have Houston's first-round pick next year, so there is a legitimate shot they could end up with the top 2 picks in the draft, yes.
He's got Drake May from North Carolina coming in at number 4. Brock Bowers from Georgia coming in at number 6. Jared Verse from Florida State. Dallas Turner, a couple of pass rushers at 7 and 8. Emeka Ibuka, another Ohio State wide receiver going in the top 10. He's got them at 9. J.C. Latham out of Alabama. He's got him to the Patriots, but right there at the top 10. Other notables include Quinn Ewers at 16, followed by Bo Nix at 17. And as you continue to scroll down, let's see, Travion Henderson from Ohio State as a first rounder late at 28. Michael Penix, a very late first rounder at 31. What stands out about what he's got so far?
If Bo Nix is a 16th overall pick, I will grow out my beard and I will never shave again. there it is.
Wait, what if he's a 15th?
Does that count?
Yeah, 16th or like 16th or higher.
Clip this.
Yeah, don't pin us on a technicality where he has to be 16. You're saying if he is 16 or higher, you're growing out your beard.
Yes.
Heisman.
Here we go. You guys all have to shave him.
Nobody wants to see me without a beard. Man.
That is a head scratcher, right?
I mean, it's not as much of a head scratcher as it would have been a year ago, but I don't think he's going that early. No.
Yeah. So in general, I think early mock drafts tend to overrate the guys who came back, right? In my opinion, most of these dudes who are like, oh, this guy could have been a first rounder if he left, but he decided to come back. That's generally not true. Like historically, those guys don't end up in the first round. Now, Fashanu at Penn State, maybe because he's only 19 years old and he's trying to get his master's, and I could see that. Like Jared Verse, I think he came back to maybe try to play his way into a first round pick. I don't think he got an actual first round grade this year. You know, Cooper baby at
Kansas State.
At Kansas State, like he's older for the level and he's a guard. To me, like I don't think a guard is going to go in the first round. If it is, it might be Donovan Jackson at Ohio State because he's a total freak. Chris Abrams-Drain at Missouri. Like, all these corners who went this year, most of them were underclassmen. Like, do we think he's going to be a first-round pick? Tom, I wanted to ask you about Jerzon Newton, the tackle. Like, does he look like a first-rounder to you or just a guy who's like a no-doubt draftable player?
I think he's going to be – he could be a first rounder depending on the kind of season he has because he was a very effective player. I just think that he's probably more of a second or third round, I think. But I think he's a very good player.
The three that really surprised me on here, other than Nix, Travion Henderson, although physically, like he will run really well, I would guess, at the combine. If he actually stays healthy for a season, he could, put up something crazy. Fabian Lovett for Florida State, I think is a player who will be drafted, probably not a first rounder. And then Javonte Spraggins from Tennessee, again, another guard. If there's omissions or if there's guys we need to put on, it's like more tackles. Teams want tackles.
Amarius Mims.
Yeah.
Amarius Mims, yeah, for sure. Like that's one I think is look at the guy.
From Georgia.
Yeah. Like some other people had interesting dudes though on theirs that I looked at. I think Ryan's is better. So like some people still have Zion Nelson. Is Zion Nelson going to start for Miami? Like he's got to stay healthy first, but Kalen King at Penn State, I guess, could be. I thought Tua Malau at Ohio State's not a bad one to throw on there because he is pretty freaky. He was number one overall player. Blake Corum at Michigan. Do you think he's in that Bijan Gibbs level? I don't.
I think he has like supersonic ankles that flex in directions that probably shouldn't be possible for humans, but I don't think he's like a first round pick. No. And I don't think, going at Ryan's here, like he's got Raheem Sanders going to the Chargers at 22. Like I like Rocket Sanders. That is not a first round pick at running back to me. That's not somebody I would use a first round pick on at that position. Like I could see it with Travion Henderson, especially if he has a huge season, but Sanders does not strike me as that kind of guy.
Did you see that he has 4 Washington players?
Yeah,
They
well, the
did
Huskies.
they did not have a single guy picked in this last draft, and he has 2 Florida State guys. They didn't have a guy picked in the top 140. They both won 10 ball games.
He has 3 Bama guys, which drove home the importance of that Alabama quarterback competition. Because if you've got, J.C. Latham, first round talent on the offensive line and a better offensive line, if you've got Kool-Aid McKinstry as graded out as one of the best defensive backs in the entire draft class, and then of course you've got Dallas Turner as a freakish edge rusher, that was like my college football brain takeaway from looking at the 2024 mock draft. Yes, Washington was a big one, but I think we were already considering Washington to be on par with USC and Utah and Oregon right there at the top of the Pac-12 before Alabama, a team that Bud Elliott has famously said is the second best team in the SEC West heading into 2023. I think that it is incredibly important that they get quarterback right because, man, they've got a lot of talent elsewhere and talent that will be gone after this season.
No doubt. Malik Neighbors from LSU, speaking, I think I would have on there. Probably maybe Chop Robinson at Penn State. Like, he's pretty damn good. I want to see what he'll test like. Tackle. Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
No, this will be like the 2021 recruiting class, right?
Yes, which is going to be weird because that was the high school senior year was the bid class.
Yeah, so this is going to be a hard one to just kind of judge a year out too. So Kyle McCord, like if you just look at what Ohio State's done at quarterback in the last few years, if he takes over the starting job and has a huge season, he could end up as a first round pick. I think looking at the guys on here, going back to Danny comment about Bo Nix. I think Michael Penix will go before Bo Nix, and I also think a guy like Michael Pratt could sneak into the first round because he has the frame and the athleticism. Like, to me, Michael Pratt doesn't have the overall arm strength near it, but to me, Michael Pratt is a lot like the Will Levisy kind of prospect in that, you're just kind of looking at what he can be still. But I think that if he didn't play at the SEC, so he's not going to get nearly as much kind of, this kind of hype a year out from the draft.
But Desmond Ridder got a bunch of buzz and wound up getting himself drafted pretty high, right?
Yeah, second round.
What
about Jaden Daniels? I think he's somebody, if he builds on what he did last year and, LSU is good again, if they win the West again, I think he's got a chance to catch some eyes. He's taller. He's 6'3".
He's got the size for sure. Yeah.
He had the pedigree coming out. I mean, he was a highly rated guy. I think if Nussmeier was starting, Neighbors would be on Ryan's list, though. Like, Daniels underthrows Neighbors all the time. But, like, if he fixes that.
Was Nussmeier really about considering the transfer portal? I saw one of the, there's sometimes.
I don't know.
Sometimes the way a story is presented is interesting. Back to the Tyler Van Dyke. Like, you didn't put your name in the transfer portal, but then all of a sudden there's a story that says, Garrett Nussmeier is not going to be in the transfer portal. Maybe that's just because it was a crowded quarterback room and you wanted to create some clarity. But I did see that earlier today, just sort of another one of those. If there was any, concern, he says he is on board for this season. Sort of speaks to what, but I know you've been hinting at or saying out loud. Forgive me if sometimes I lose track of these things, but that Nuss is as good as Jane Daniels. And that if Nussmeier starts, that would not be a huge shock to you, right?
Yeah, I think he's at least as good of a prospect. Now, Daniels does run around a lot better, but I think Nussmeier throws the ball better. What about I kind of think one of the Clemson linebackers could go. I don't know if it's Carter or Barrett, depending on how they play senior year. Those are dudes who could go first.
Wasn't a great draft for Clemson defenders this year.
No, it was not.
I mean, there was a lot of guys that were high, like the traits guys coming out of high school that just didn't really kind of like Miles Murphy. He was a first round pick, right? He got taken in the first, but But you look at Trenton Simpson was a guy that a lot of people had mocked going earlier. He fell to the middle. There's just, I don't know. That's just something to keep an eye on there. It'd be nice for Clemson to have a bounce back in that aspect.
Well, they had Brian Brzee too.
Yeah, Brzee, true. But when you look at where those guys came out of high school as highly rated, those were like Brian Brzee was a guy I thought. I mean, the injuries obviously played an impact on that, but that was a guy I thought was like a top 10 pick for sure.
I got another one that I heard that I think I would take the over. Brock Bowers, you said it's mocked sixth overall.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't think there's any chance that happens.
because of size.
Yeah. He's only listed at 230. I know he's fast, but
Yeah, agreed.
I think he's maybe a little bit one-dimensional for what they're looking for at the next level to be taken that high.
All right. Well,
Too
on
healthy.
that train, who on his first round mock do you think is too low? And like you've mentioned, guys you think is too high. Who do you think he has too low?
Oh, Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers can be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he's at 16. He's not far, but like if Quinn Ewers has the season that, our most bullish expectations of Texas are, Quinn Ewers leads Texas to an amazing season. You're taking him in the top 10.
If Worthy catches the ball well enough to be a first round pick, 15 will be low because of what he will run. Like if he catches the ball, shows the progress that, hey, he's first round pick worthy, he'll be top 10 because what he's going to run at the combine will be ridiculous at, over 6 foot.
Is Marvin Harrison Jr. as a number 2 overall like that? That's legit. I mean, is this going to be the most no-brainer skill position pick since Saquon?
Well, okay, if Jamar Chase had played his final year, do we think he would have been more no-brainer than Harrison? He was really good as a sophomore, and then he sat out the COVID year.
And there's still time for Marvin Harrison Jr. to sit out too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You could soft tissue this thing all the way to November, baby. Any other takeaways?
Penix. Oh, what about Joe Milton? I mean,
if he balls out,
I'm surprised he wasn't the guy they're looking for the next Anthony Richardson, like body type, cannon for an arm, just raw potential. I guess he is.
I don't think Milton's going to test as well because isn't
right,
that
he's not a good runner?
Yeah,
but like, is he as athletic as Josh Allen? Like, Joe Milton can do like a standing backflip. I've seen him do it in high school. Like I always thought like this
careful.
guy.
That's why Anthony Richardson got hurt.
I know,
right.
Like he could play tight end though, like not in the NFL. But my thought was always like, this guy athletically is pretty damn big and moves. He's not AR, but like I think he could be Josh Allen testing numbers potentially.
Brendan had a good. I was going to say Brendan had a good question in there. Is it possible for Drake May to pass Caleb Williams? I would say it's unlikely, but he could.
Yes.
I think it's unlikely. Yeah. I think his skill set is but I also think Caleb Williams is doing some things like the way he throws on the run, like in the way he just I think he's the closest kind of comp to Patrick Mahomes. I'm not calling him Patrick Mahomes, but like the way he just makes plays and keeps plays alive, I think it's going to be tough for Drake May to do that. And I think he's going to have better weapons to work with, clearly.
Caleb Williams had a couple of clunkers in his first year as a starter when he was with Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
A couple clunkers and with a brighter spotlight and higher expectations. Yeah, it's possible. But Drake May's got to go get it done too with the new offensive coordinator. So
I've got two names that I think they're both eligible. They both play for Ohio State and they're not in Ryan's mock. Are Jack Sawyer and JT Tuiyomalau eligible for the draft next year?
Yes, they both are. JT,
I got Sawyer. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you say. Yes, I think JT could be a top 10 pick. I think Sawyer could be one of the first edge rushers taken in the draft next year. I think those are two guys around here to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys who stepped up as Zach Harrison never really in production wise definitely never lived up to that line that we were drawing from the Bosas and Chase Young and all the way through. There was a lot of thought that Zach Harrison would be next. It really has turned into a little bit more of Sawyer and then JTT as that great two-way playmaker.
I think I had like 5 more, but before we say, let's get some likes on this video. We got a bunch of people watching it live. Let's hit that like button. All right. But now Danny's gone. If you don't like Danny, now's your perfect chance to like the video, right?
Yeah, because we will test the algorithm. We'll see when the likes came in. Yeah, you put in the likes here at this 57-minute mark of the podcast, then we'll be able to be like, hey, well, listen, once Danny left, our likes went through the roof. This is just testing.
Mm-hmm.
This is market research right here.
Numbers never lie.
Please go give us a like. And if this is the first time that you're hanging out with us, please do subscribe so you can get much more Cover 3 podcasts. All right, Bud, what do you got?
All right. So two more receivers I was thinking about. Troy Franklin at Oregon, I think he's pretty damn good. Johnny Wilson, because the size, if he runs better than I think he's going to run, certainly could. I mean, the guy's like 6'6", 6'6.5". So that's kind of rare at receiver. We're light on Georgia guys in this. And I wonder, like, if Smell Munden stays healthy, could he, like, maybe a Dominic Lovett, the transfer receiver they got from Missouri, maybe he sneaks in back half, I guess. A name for you, Kingsley Suamatea, BYU offensive tackle. Just these 5-star tackles seem to work out pretty well normally. And that's because we see them, we're like, oh, there's not a lot of people on earth built like that. Let's put a good grade on this guy. Right. And so like he maybe could. Miami had like 3 guys that PFF loved. So Cam Kinchins and James Williams, both safeties. Like there's some chance one of those guys goes. I want to see what Williams runs. Leonard Taylor, like pass rushing 3 tech, if he really blows up. He was a former top 10 guy. Tight end wise, like it's so hard to be a first round tight end. Like Jatavion Sanders is pretty nasty for Texas, I think. Caleb Bullock for USC. I think I'm tapped out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is a position where I do not envy, Ryan Wilson's challenge of this mock draft and then the 2.0 and then the 3.0 all the way to, 365.4. But he's got a good track record. Like we mentioned last year, the mock draft that he put together at this very time, 22 first rounders, he absolutely nailed. There were 26 players in his mock draft who actually did declare. We mentioned that Tyler Van Dyke, was one of those names, somebody who's actually back in college. He gets an incomplete, no penalty on grading that one. Same thing with Spencer Rattler and some others, but it's an interesting look. And especially when you've got those quarterbacks and wide receivers up there in the top 10, it's going to be fun to continue to get one more year with these extremely talented players with us in college football.